Singer's Closet today. I am very excited today because I have another really special guest who is actually live with me from New York. And he has a very special story as he is a singer-songwriter, but he is also a practicing lawyer. And that what intrigued me about having him on my show today was his mission to inspire others who have not yet maybe realized their dreams and have given up hope. And he hopes to inspire others who haven't yet fulfilled their dreams and may have just given up. And he is actually living proof that you can pursue your dreams while you're working a job as well as raising a family, and do all that at once. And today I'm going to let him tell you eventually about how he does just do that. So his music is also very much comes from the heart, and you can tell whenever you hear his music and his lyrics. It has a little bit of taste of the 60s and 70s. It's folk rock and country pop with influences of the Beatles, Neil Young, James Taylor is who he reminds me of a lot, Jackson Browne, and Fleetwood Mac. So he writes about songs about love, the working world, and dreams, and just related topics to everyday life. So he is an acoustic songwriter, which I love the acoustic guitar, and his music is, to me, it's just like a breath of fresh air when I listen to it. It brings back a lot of great memories. So he's soon to be releasing volume 2 of his first CD, or not his first CD, but his most recent Realizations and Declarations. And so without further delay, I want to introduce to you from New York, singer-songwriter and attorney, Scott Krokoff. So say hello, Scott, so I know you're still with me.
Hello. Hey, Tamarah.
It's so good to have you here today, Scott, because like I said, I was really drawn to you when I read your bio, and I think I found you at first on Twitter, I believe. And you know, when I read your bio, your mission in life is pretty much kind of the same mission mine is, and I think we talked about that when we met on Skype, about people pursuing their dreams and at any age. And so I think it's important to know that people can still pursue a dream while working another career or job, and just the fact that you are a lawyer has not stopped you from pursuing your dream of being a musician. And I know it's been a lifelong dream of yours to become a singer, but you went to law school and became a lawyer. So when you decided to become a lawyer, did you know at that time that you wanted to also become a singer, or had you just given up on that dream, or did you have a little plan in place, or how did that all come about?
I can't really say I had a plan. You're giving me a little too much credit there for the plan piece. But I've always had a desire to pursue music, and actually at the time when I was in law school, was in my mid-20s, and I was already doing music. You know, I was in a band called Equinox with some really good friends of mine that I met in college, and this was back in the early '90s, and you know, we were playing in college, and we played throughout the '90s, and then during that time, you know, you start to worry about responsibilities and making the most of your potential, as it were. And you know, a lot of people, including those around me, you know, including people in the band, were going to grad school of some sort, or were pursuing, you know, their careers, their working careers at least. And while I still, even back then, I wanted to do this. At the same time, I guess going to law school was kind of to hedge my bets, which is not really the reason you should go to law school. In fact, that should not be the reason to go. But you know, because believe it or not, I was a math major actually. I was, when I was in college, I was studying initially to be an engineer, and then later to be an actuary. And the truth was, I didn't want to do either one of those. And then eventually I went to law school.
But you must have had a passion for law school at some point, right? Or
Well, yeah, I did. So, okay, it wasn't a complete, I wasn't just throwing a dart at a dartboard. It wasn't like that. I thought, given my personality, I thought I might, be a good judge. That was actually one of the things I thought about when I went to law school. Although I knew that was going to be something that wasn't going to happen immediately. Obviously, you'd have to be a litigator and practice for a long time, and even then, then you'd have to. There's no guarantee of something like that. But that's one of the long-term goals of what I was thinking. I also thought, believe it or not, of tax law, which eventually I did practice because of my math background. So I did go in there with some aims. But even then, even in law school, I still, was doing my music on the side. And, I think like I said, at least I had, a vocation that I can turn to in case the music didn't work out. But so I guess that was part of it. But I never gave up on it, and I don't give up on it now.
well, that's great. I mean, that's great. Because I was just curious as if you at what point you knew you wanted to be a singer, and it sounds like you knew you wanted to even when you started law school. So it has been a lifelong dream. But when you were growing up, did you have a passion for music that was so strong that maybe your parents or friends or whatever family picked up on it at some point and noticed that you had that special talent?
I did. I did always have an ear for music. For example, I can remember a few times when I was a kid, I'd be able to go to a keyboard and pick out by ear the melody of a song.
Wow.
And that's something I could do, pretty quickly. And I even had a toy organ to play with when I was a kid. And I can't remember exactly when I was like 10 or 11, something like that. I did get a guitar, like an old cheap classical guitar. I can't remember. It might have been from one of my relatives or something. But anyway, I do remember going to my local pool club and getting my first lessons, and I learned I learned the G, C, and D chords, which are some of the most prevalent, not only for a novice but for a long-time songwriter. You're always going back to those kinds of chords. And the thing is, I didn't really stick with it. I didn't pursue it seriously until college. And then I never had, other than that, I never really had formal training again. I pretty much, used my ear, but also I learned from other people. I know, whether it's friends, I knew other friends who were guitar players that I would just watch and ask them, questions. How do they do this? How do they do that? There's a lot of guitar tab books, then listening to songs. There's a combination of everything. So, it was informal training that I would say. But yeah, I always had an aptitude for it. But I did play trumpet in junior high school.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, so I did that. I forgot about that. It's been a while since I've done that. But yeah, I did. I did that too. So yeah, I've always had that within me. But I didn't really pursue it seriously until college.
Right. Did you play the piano as well? Did you take piano lessons? Because you said you played the keyboards.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't take piano lessons until much later. like my mid-30s later.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah. And then I finally did with a guy who's Evan Klosser, really great keyboard player and piano player. And so I finally got some basic training. I played it a bit, and I actually have some songs that I've yet to record and release that are piano based. That I just don't have as much time to attend to that I wonder why with everything else I'm doing, why I don't have time.
I know. But your parents must have really picked up on that you had that special talent during, I mean, did you sing then too? Like, did you just sing a little when you were, a teenager or?
Yeah, I mean, I sang like in Glee Club and things like that. I wasn't like I wasn't really doing it actively, but I did know that I could carry a tune. I knew that I had that ability. Um, but again, that's something I didn't work through until a lot later. But I did always, I always had that ability to, sing a tune and be, relatively on pitch. Um, but then, I didn't really, I learned later on your voice is like any other instrument, and the more you practice it, the better you get.
Right, exactly.
If I got it from anyone, I got it from my mom. I mean, because she'd always sing in the car, and she can carry a tune as well.
Because I was going to ask you, were any of your parents or other family members musicians or singers or?
Yeah, other than what I just told you, no.
No, really?
No,
Wow.
no. I have some cousins who are musicians, so I guess it is in our blood somewhere.
Right.
But that in my immediate family, no, no.
Well, when you, um, what, who or what influenced you to, did your parents influence you a bit to go to law school, even though you had this dream as being a singer, or
Well,
is
like
that?
any concerned and protective parent, you know, um, my mom, was always, wanted to make sure I had a solid day job. She really didn't care what it was.
Right.
Although she, always has appreciated my talent in terms of music. But going to law school, like I said, it was the kind of thing that at that point in time, you're worried about whether or not you're going to meet your potential or not. And
Right. Well, when you first got up and sang in front of people or performed, was that after law school or
oh no, no. So
you did do that before?
yeah. So let's back up a bit. So yeah, since my band, when I did when I was playing with Equinox, we were doing that in college in the '90s and throughout the '90s, and yeah, we were playing all over the place.
Hmm.
So I was already doing all that.
Right.
But I came out of school. I was gonna, do something math oriented. I changed my mind, and then I was looking for, something else to do to have a quote unquote day job, right? And that's how I ended up going to law school.
Right.
Yes.
Did you, I know some musicians that
It
I've
it
talked to, huh?
it,
Uh-oh. Okay, I think you're back now. Are you with me? I'm losing you a little bit, Scott. Can you hear me? You might need to jump off and jump back on. Let's see.
When I hear people,
I think I,
they want to go to law school.
I lost you there for a little bit, Scott. Can you hear me? you can, I don't know if it's me or you. It might be me. Let's see if I need to jump back on. Can you hear me at all, Scott? I'm going to give you a minute to jump back on. So I think we're having some internet connection problems. So let's see if I'm going to give Scott just a minute to jump back on. So just bear with us. I'm not sure if I've lost him for good. Are you here?
I'm here now.
Are you back? Okay. Okay. I'm sorry I lost you.
Yeah, no problem. It happens.
I know. So you're back.
Well, the world of wireless connectivity.
I know. So I was going to ask you, and I don't think you heard me, is if when you first got up and performed in front of people, did you, was that, because I know that's scary for a lot of people. One musician told me he kind of goes into character, whatever. Do you feel like you have to do that when you perform, or are you pretty much just Scott?
I'm pretty much just Scott. I don't go into character. Now, there are plenty of people who do that, and I give them all the credit in the world. I mean, some people, they need to have the alter ego thing. I mean, there's a lot of famous musicians who did that. Peter Gabriel of Genesis is one perfect example right there. But no, I don't. Now, that's not to say I haven't battled with stage fright, because I have. And sometimes I do think about the whole alter ego thing, but it's just not me. It never has been. I'm pretty much a straight shooter. That's my persona. And you get that not only if you knew me personally, but you also get that when I'm on the stage. And in my songwriting, it's pretty much straight on through.
Right. Well, I can see that, because I mean, you can sort of tell which ones do, and I think when I watch the videos with you, I kind of feel like when I'm watching you, that's who you are, you're not really going into character. You're being pretty much who you are, which I think is good that your lyrics come across that way too. So, but I wanted to ask you, what most people kind of have some mentors or people who influence them in some fashion at one time, and I was curious as to who would you say was your biggest influence when you got started, and who's your influence today? Like when you started really getting into songwriting, and is there, you may not even have a specific.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a specific mentor, but in terms of influences, well, like many other people, I'm a big Beatles fan, and I'm also, a big fan of artists like some of the ones you mentioned, like Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles, and I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I love guys like Van Morrison and James Taylor. And I like, then my music, my influences start to vary. I like a lot of folk artists. I'm sure that's evident from my songs, like a James Taylor, like a Paul Simon, or Jim Croce or something like that, or Gordon Lightfoot. But then I also love like things like prog rock, like I do. I'm like, like bands like Rush and early Genesis, Pink Floyd, things like that. And then, believe it or not, I like things like ABBA.
Oh
Oh, yeah, I know you can't always say that. Depends on who you're talking to.
yeah.
But I am I'm an unabashed fan, and I like some more ethereal music, like the U2s and Radioheads and Coldplays of the world. I like that stuff too, and all of that. And I could talk for another hour, by the way, about I could take the rest of the time, this interview, to talk about influences. I mean, people like Neil Young and the Grateful Dead and Crosby, Stills and Nash and things like that. Most of, as you can tell, most of my influences are earlier, but not all. Not all. I mean, I really, but most of it is 60s and 70s. And then I like even eclectic guys. Like I love David Bowie. I'm a big fan of his stuff. I like new wave type bands like the Talking Heads, that no one seems to ever talk about anymore. But I always thought they were one of the best bands.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I mean, there's so many others. I'm sure I'm forgetting half of them. And as soon as we get off this interview, I'll say, how come I didn't bring up bands X, Y, and Z to you?
Yeah.
But I mean, it definitely, I definitely have those are my main influences. Now, even though I have it all depends on who you ask. I have like a folk rock sound or a country pop sound, right?
Yeah.
And and I totally get that, and I think I do fit right in there. But I don't listen to a lot of country. I listen to some, but I don't listen to a ton. And if anything, I usually like more the earlier stuff, like Johnny Cash or Willie Nelson, people like that. Although I do listen to some newer country, but not that much, believe it or not. But I think I think because I'm a fan of people like like Neil Young or Fleetwood Mac. It's funny. People would, if Fleetwood Mac came out today, people would say that they're a country pop band, even though they're back in the '70s they would never be classified like that.
No,
But,
I know.
but today they would.
Yeah.
Today they would. Today, so Tom Petty too would be a country guy, even though he
Yeah,
really isn't.
you're
Of
right.
course, it just the way the industry has gravitated. Of course, Bob Dylan. I neglected to bring him up before. Big fan of him too. All these guys, all these artists, and they kind of all weave their way into my sound. And there's the piano guys like Elton John and Billy Joel. I'm huge fans of both of them. I think sometimes that comes across in other ways, but that's just my way of thinking. Other people might not agree, but those are all. I have a vast array of influences that I think you could tell where a lot of them are, but then sometimes every now and then, depending on the song, some other ones show up. But yeah, in terms of mentors, can't really say I have a mentor. But there are definitely people in the music, I have music contacts that I appreciate and look up to, and I have learned from. I don't know if I have an exact, a single mentor though. I don't know if I could say that.
Well, sometimes your mentor can even be someone, I think, that's not even in the industry you're in. It just might be someone you admire. I mean, some people, it could be a family member even, So, yeah, I just think that, but everybody that you have named are artists that I love too. So, my taste in music is very diverse. I like a little bit of everything. So I don't really have a favorite, I guess.
You don't have a single. I hate. By the way, I have a tough time answering that question myself. Although I know my favorite's the Beatles, so that's easy for me to say. But if you ask me what are like the next like top 10, I mean, it's like taking an exam. I would have a tough time making sure I didn't get the answers wrong. But you know, what are your? I'm just curious. You have like 2 or 3 in there that come to mind, or?
So of my favorites, God, you know, I really don't, because all my life when people would ask me, who's your favorite singer, or who's your favorite female vocalist or whatever, I never really could answer that question, because it was a mood thing with me. It depended on my mood, you know, and I listened to all the people that you named are artists that I really, really do like. But when someone says, who's your favorite male vocalist or female vocalist, I really couldn't ever answer that question. There was a time where I thought Barbra Streisand had just a beautiful voice, a powerful voice. And I think that was in my teens. But I think it was because I had seen a movie she was in, The Star is Born, whatever, and with Chris Christopherson, and that was just, that movie for whatever reason was real powerful to me, and so she became someone that I liked. But I couldn't say today. I mean, I went through a period where I loved you know, Madonna or Cher, or, you know, I love Tom Petty. I went through a Tom Petty phase. I mean, you know, I love Fleetwood Mac. So I really honestly can't say I have a favorite. You know, I actually went through when I was married to my second husband, he liked country music, and all I did was listen to country music because that's what he liked. So, you know,
Barbra Streisand. I'm a bit. Yeah, she's great. I love Barbra Streisand's music. She's she's one of the best singers there is, or you know, or will be, for that matter. Right? It really, angelic is really the only way you could describe it. And actually, it's funny because you were mentioning Barbra Streisand. I forgot to tell you because I love the Bee Gees.
I love
totally
the Bee Gees.
Off kilter, you know. But I think Barry Gibb, one of the best songwriters out there, their songs. I mean, people obviously you hear when someone references the Bee Gees, they automatically think of Saturday Night. There's a lot of great songs on that record, obviously, but it's not just that. They really did so much more than that, and they were just tremendous songwriters and singers and harmonizers. So yeah, I consider that an influence too. And you know, Barry Gibb and Barbra Streisand, they did a couple of records together too. Like, you know, "Woman in Love," what a great song that is.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled you like Barbra Streisand. So I'm always hesitant. I always afraid somebody's going to go, "Oh my God," you know.
No, I think she's great. I mean,
yeah.
You know, fantastic singer.
Yeah, and Bee Gees, I can't believe I forgot to mention them. You're right. I mean, God, who didn't? I mean, I still love them. I still listen to them. So
I just do that. I think they're fantastic. I told you, Tamarah, we could talk about this before you know what the time would be. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about this band. I forgot about this band too.
I know. There's so many. There really are. There really are. So what I want to know, though, is when would you say that you felt like you started developing your own style? Because I know, you know, lots of times we're influenced by people that we look up to, but then we kind of want to get to a point where we develop our own style, and I call it stepping into your own, so to speak. Do you know, was there a period where you felt like you were doing that, or maybe it didn't stand out to you?
I think, actually, believe it or not, I'm starting to step into my own style now. Like, and when I say now, I mean, I don't mean today. I mean the last few years. I feel like I've found my style. I think it took me this long. You know, some people, they get it right away. I'm not saying I never had it. I just feel like, you know, over the last few years, I kind of feel like I'm in a groove as to the kind of songs I want to write and play. And I also just feel more comfortable, definitely feel more comfortable writing. I feel more comfortable recording without question. And I also feel comfortable on stage. Although I still think I have another level to get to on stage. You know, I'm a, you know, sometimes when I'm on stage, you know, my shyer tendencies sometimes come through. You know, I definitely have introverted tendencies. And it's funny, I actually wrote a song about that. One of my newer songs, not on this record, but on the next one I'm going to do. I already have material for the next record.
Oh, volume 3 or the?
Yeah, it's going to be volume 3 actually.
Okay.
And this one of these songs is about how introverts feel in the world, and it's called Something I'd Like to Know. So you know, I could relate to that, and you know, I think it goes back to what you're saying about the whole alter ego thing. You know, because it's what's important. It doesn't really matter what you do on the stage. What's important is that you do it convincingly. You know, you do it and that you sell that. You don't want to say you're selling it, but you are selling it. You are in a way a salesman at all times, really, for music. You're not knocking on doors, but at the same time, you kind of are. You're just doing it at venues or places like this, where you have to, you're conveying, saying, here's my product, here are my songs, this is what I do. And it's not, there's that piece, and you need to have that piece, and you need to have the talent to do it. But you also have to, as I've learned, sometimes the hard way, it's not just about that. Those are vital pieces you have to have, but you also have to deliver it. You have to, sell it. And what I mean by, and really what I mean by that is like when you're on stage, and what I'm talking about. You go to, you see someone play, and they're killing it, and they're within themselves, and they're doing it, and they exude their confidence, and you feel it, and you say to even if they're freaking out in their heads, they're exuding it. You don't see it, you don't pick up on it, and you're blown away by it. That's what I mean. That's what I mean, because you need that too. That's a key part. There are people who don't perform, obviously, and just there are other they just you could package your songs and have other people sing them, or you could license them, which is definitely a great thing, and I'd like to do that too. But if you're going to perform, you gotta deliver it as well. There's that extra piece. So when you're someone that, like me, who has a little more, you can be a little shy sometimes until I get to know you, or a little introverted about things. I don't know if it's shyness. I don't like small talk. I hate small talk. It drives me crazy. That to me is a challenge, having a small talk conversation with, how are you? How's your summer?
I know.
that kind of thing. Some people are experts at it, and they just love doing that.
Yeah.
For me, that's not always in find that to be very difficult. So it's just like when you don't have to dress up in a certain way, although you can if you want. You don't have to adopt an alter ego. You don't have to have a pseudonym or anything, or a stage name. You could do that. It's entertainment. You could do it for fun, or because you want to hide behind something. I get it when people do it,
right.
But you don't have to do it. My whole point is, whatever you decide to do, that you just do it convincingly.
Exactly. And I like what you said about a salesman, because you are, and I've talked about this in an inspirational post or blog before, about how people seem to hate, they say they hate salesmen, but everybody's selling something. We really are. And even, and it's true. If you've got a dream or a passion, no matter what it is, you're if nothing else, you're selling yourself on it. So I think I kind of like, I'm not looked at a musician that way, but they really are. You really are. So I think it's great that you're stepping into your own now. That's I mean, that's a cool place to be, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's definitely, when you start to see things come together that way, yeah, there's no question. It's a cool, place to be. And like I said, I still think I have another level to get to. And it's just it's a process. Some people reach it quicker than others, and you just have to keep doing what you're doing and learning from the things that don't work, and getting over those humps, because that's going to happen. And there's going to be inevitable setbacks, and there's going to be, mediocre performances. You're just not your best day, or you wrote a song that you think is great, but it falls on deaf ears. I mean, it's a very rigorous business that way, and very, very emotionally subjective. And then, like, I go to open mics a lot because I'm an acoustic player. That singer-songwriters tend to do that. They go to, it's just part of the trade. And I find open mic to be like boot camp, because,
Oh, yeah.
I say it all the time, because that you're usually surrounded by some really great talent. Yeah, maybe a few people trying out for the first time, but you're inevitably going to see a few people who blow, knock your socks off. And you want to hold your own, and whether it's to prove yourself to your fellow musicians, or to a new venue that you're trying to get a gig at, and this is really where you shape your style and you shape your sound. It's at places like that.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's, and you never really get, no matter where we get, you never really get to your destination, because you're always creating a new goal, you want to get to another level. And I think that's the thing. You're always challenging yourself, so
You're constantly challenging yourself, and it goes, it's kind of, it goes back to what I just said about how it could be, I said, in an open mic setting, could be anywhere. You're always going to see other people who are just incredibly talented. There's a lot of talented people out there. It's not just you.
right.
And I get blown away all the time. Anytime I feel like, I'm making all these strides, and all of a sudden I say, no, I'm not, because someone just blew me out of the water, and I have that much further to do, to progress. And that, and you just remind yourself that it's a marathon. It's a long-term goal. And the thing with music, it's not an equitable business. You're going to see some 19-year-old who just ends up shooting, rocketing into stardom, and you're going to say that's not fair. And yes, that isn't. It isn't fair. It's not. Then you're going to see people who've been trudging along for decades, and they're still not getting the recognition they feel they deserve. And it's tough to be in that situation, but you never know when it's going to happen. And I kind of equate it to, I've used this analogy sometimes, where you're packing gunpowder in a firecracker, and you just need someone to light the wick, kind of thing. You have to key it. You're building a resume. It is a resume. That's really what it is. It's showing all of your achievements, all the songs you've done, all the records you've done, all the places you played, and all the fans you've amassed, and that you're building. They say building your brand. I say building a resume, but it's the same thing.
Right. It is, and it's like you got to be ready for when it happens. So you just keep preparing and planning on it happening. You just don't know when it's going to happen. But sometimes a mystery is fun too. But how did you begin to form your band members? Like, were they people you had known for a while, or?
So the band members from my actual band back in the '90s were other musicians I met, and that some of whom were my friends already. Actually, they were my friends first. Some of them were, but for what I do now, the people I play with are people that I all met through my producer. So
wow.
my producer, Bob Stander. He produces my records, and he's really great, fantastic, and a really great person. You know, I'm really happy to have met him, beyond happy to have met him. And anyway, he, you know, these are people that have found their way on my records, or most of them. And then these are other people that you know, then it just contacts in the New York scene. But the guys I play with, all but one I've recorded with already. One I will record with later, that I met through Bob. At least that I hope to. But yeah, I met him pretty much. I met them all through my producer, and I've recorded with most of them, so they know my material. Now these are people, they're in other bands too, and they do other, or in other projects. You know, these are full-time musicians. I'm not. They're not just associated with me. They do a bunch of things. But I'm lucky that I get to play with them from time to time.
That's awesome. That's great. But what is it? You sort of already answered this one. What I was going to ask you, what's it like in New York? Because I know there are a lot of places to play and there's a lot of competition, but you know, how do you make that decision of where you want to play? And
there are okay, so you know, the New York's a big scene, obviously, but it's kind of divided into mini scenes. One of which is the acoustic scene, you know, the singer-songwriter scene, which is not as big as other, like, you know, Brooklyn, for example, is huge in terms of modern rock, absolutely huge, or indie. I don't even know how to categorize it anymore. Indie rock, indie pop, that kind of stuff. Singer-songwriter type stuff. There's a bunch of what I'd say go-to venues in the city. Rockwood Music Hall is one, and one that I get to, I'm happy to play at from time to time, very happy to play at from time to time. That's a very well-known one. Living Room's another one. Cafe Vivaldi, really great place. LIC Bar, where I'm playing at this coming Sunday. And there's a bunch more. Way Station is another one. There's a bunch of what I'd say, pianos. You know, so there's a bunch of like acoustic singer-songwritery type venues, and there's other ones too that I would say form the basis of the New York singer-songwriter scene. And you know, it's just a matter of you know, you start. Like I said, Cafe Vivaldi actually has one of the best, if not the best, open mic in the city. On Monday nights, and that's actually I went there at one point weekly for practically a year.
And what was the name of that one? What was that one?
Cafe Vivaldi.
Okay, Vivaldi.
Where I went for literally like nearly a year or around there. I can't remember. Where I went almost every week. Harder now these days with all my additional responsibilities, but you know, and that it's things like that I was equating to. Sidewalk Cafe is another one. I mean, you know, there's a ton of there's a bunch that are for singer-songwriters that, you know, you frequent and you try to get into, and they're building blocks. And, you know, just like any other town, really, it's just a matter, you know, I've learned that, you know, some places you could just send a submission to. Sometimes you have to be very persistent for certain places, and then for others, you got to go to open mics and go there regularly until they like you. There's also, which I've been getting involved in, there's like a whole folk circuit. That there's a bunch of Unitarian Universalist churches on Long Island that form like a big part of this folk circuit scene. Also some in upstate New York. And in fact, there's like a whole, you know, it culminates in a couple of summer festivals. One of which I'm playing at later this month, called the Huntington Folk Festival. Then at the end of the year, there's a whole conference. It's called NERFA, Northeast Regional Folk Alliance.
Yeah, I saw a picture of NERFA. I was going to ask you about NERFA. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the Northeast Folk Regional Alliance. I think I got it right. I think it's the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance. That's it. Northeast Regional Folk Alliance, NERFA.
Yeah.
Which I just learned. I had heard about actually for several years, but I finally I went last year, and I'm hoping to go again. And there's another really, there's a bunch of, like I said, this whole folk circuit. There's places like Homegrown Music Cafe out in Port Jefferson that I really love. There's also a bunch of places like Garden Stage and the Hard Luck Cafe, and plenty more that where you have it that are really great for singer-songwriters, and you get really nice audiences. So there are ways, there's a whole, there's I gave you like 2 pieces of it for, that I think that's the kind of stuff that I'd regularly check out here.
Right. Well, I know that inspiring people to go after their dreams is very important to you, and that comes through in your lyrics too. I wanted you to kind of share that part of your passion with the viewers, as far as what keeps you inspired, and what advice you'd give to other people who feel like they're stuck in a job they don't love, and yet they have this dream, this passion.
I get it, obviously, and I get it more than most. I'm not the only one who gets it, by the way. I know other people who are doing the same thing I'm doing. They're not lawyers, but they're pushing it just as hard. And yeah, I mean, when you get older, you like I said, responsibilities take over, and you don't, even very subtle ways, sometimes in overt ways, you don't have the same energy you once had. Mm-hmm. One thing I find I'm a total disadvantage at now is, again, trying to like network in the music scene, I have to pick my spots. I can't be going out 3 or 4 nights a week, like my 20-year-old peers can, which I God bless them. I think they should, but I can't help but be envious of it sometimes. And because I know that's the way, the more you do that, the more connections you make, and the better your chances are to leveraging opportunities. That's why people do that. I get it. They should. I do that too, but I don't do it as often because I just where I'm at in my life. But having just said all that to you, you should never give up on something. It's plain and simple. I don't know who came up with this. I don't know who came up with this shelf life creation, where people like say, oh, by a certain age or by a certain time in your life, that kind of funny stuff is, was fun then, but you have to give it up now and be more responsible. I'm not saying you shouldn't be responsible, by the way. I'm very responsible. You have to be responsible. The older you get, you're going to have to, be accountable for things. I think, I totally get that, and I do that. And that's a part of life, by the way, and not just and you could pick a vocation, that's just an inevitable part of maturing and getting older in life. But that shouldn't stop you from, taking your dream and just hanging it on the coat rack and saying, see you later.
Right.
It takes a lot of energy to do it. That's why most people stop. It's also, things like this are incredibly daunting. This is the hardest to try to do something like this. It's incredibly difficult. And I struggle every week. There's always things to deal with. It could drive you crazy. It's a roller coaster kind of a business. But when I meet someone like you, or some of my fans, someone who just contacts me, right, like my friend Bart in Belgium, who just contacts me out of nowhere and tells me how great my music is and all that, and I make like a total fan for life and a friend for life too. That's great. I mean, how do you not feel good about that? That's the power of music, is that it connects you with people that you otherwise may never have met. And the fact when people tell you, how much they relate to a certain song. I mean, you know, that's exactly what, you know, that's the reward. I mean, that really is the kind of stuff that helps keep me going, especially on some tough days or tough months where I feel like, you know, I'm not progressing as much as I can. Now I'm the kind of guy who I'm hard on myself. So I always feel like I should be doing more, but I'm not the only musician who's like that. I mean, I'm a type A personality, so that's within my nature.
Right.
You know, you can imagine someone who's a musician and a lawyer is probably someone who's incredibly hard on themselves, and I am. I am very, very much so. But most musicians probably feel this one way or another, that there's always something in business. You always feel like you're not doing enough. Even for the people who are out every day of the week, probably feel like they're not doing enough. But again, going back to your question, it's I am adamant about it because you know, you shouldn't, if you really feel strongly about something, and now it's not just about feeling strongly about it. You have to have some kind of aptitude for it. I could feel strongly about painting, but I'm never going to be a good painter. Okay,
Right.
you know, if I said to myself and manifested it to the world and told everyone I'm going to be the next Picasso, but I suck at painting, then it's not going to matter. I'm never going to get there because you know, it's not just about manifesting it.
Right.
It's not just about having. You do have to have the talent. You have to have an aptitude for it. You just do. And you might, and you have to work at it. By the way, it's not just talent. You got to practice it. I could tell you when the times when I don't practice enough. I really don't. And I think that sometimes, you know, again, I'm being hard on myself, but you have to be hard on yourself because in the music business, you have to be, you know, consistently outstanding if you really want to progress and attract attention. You just do, because the market is so ridiculously saturated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just go to YouTube. Do I need to say anything else? I mean, you know, you have to stand out, and the only way to stand out is having great songs and having a consistent drive and passion for it, and being and persevering, but also being consistently outstanding. You just do. But again, back to, you know, I know I'm jumping around a bit, but you know, I'm just trying to say that, you know, you shouldn't give up on something, but you have to believe in it, and you have to have the ability to do it. But if you have that, if you really believe in something and you know you're good at something, you know you just have a knack for medicine or for teaching or for being you're a techie and you have a great idea for the next great app or something like that, then it behooves you to do it. No matter whether you're 55 or 25, it doesn't matter. And yes, it'll be harder if you're 55. It'll be much harder. You probably have other responsibilities. You might not have the time you once had. You might not have the energy you once had. But you have to try it. Find a way to do it. So yes, and I think that the more you do, as long as you keep doing that, then you are living it. Then you are actually living your dream.
Right. Exactly. And I think the internet is a game changer too. I think it's changed. It gives us so much opportunity to reach more people that we never would ever be. I mean, now we can even communicate with celebrities, people who've, you know, celebrities are on the internet now, on social media. Social media has opened up so many opportunities, and YouTube has opened up opportunities for musicians and just motivational speakers, and anybody. You can put anything on YouTube. So I think that I mean, I love watching the celebrities that I admire that are like Clint Eastwood, who's going strong in his 80s, and Suzanne Summers, who just wrote another book, and she's almost 70. She's 68, 69, and I just follow these different people on social media just to get inspiration, because they're going strong and they're not letting their age keep them from doing something that they love. So, you know, we couldn't do that before without the internet.
You're right about that, and it's a great point. And I you know, as much as the music industry has changed, and yeah, and in some ways to the detriment of artists, because the revenue streams have whittled down. I mean, you know, people obviously don't buy CDs anymore, or they rarely do, and people really don't buy downloads that much anymore either. It's really becoming a streaming world. That's where it's all good. Some people still are purists and buy that kind of stuff, and you're always grateful if when they do. But most people, are streaming like on YouTube. Also, it's especially younger generations. They're now expecting it to be given away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But what's great about, I still don't complain about it. Although, at one point I had some more. I wasn't thrilled about it, obviously, and you want to, because of the goal is you want to make a living. I mean, it's not just creative. You want to actually make a living doing it. But the one thing I'm grateful for the internet above all else is that it gives someone like me a chance.
Yeah.
If this was the 90s or even the early 2000s, and I was at this point, that would be it. I would, because either I got signed or I didn't, and record companies, most likely would be looking for the next, big 20-something, and they'd say, oh well, you could still be in the industry if you, as a songwriter, maybe maybe I could do that and pitch my songs to others. I guess in that respect, I could have still done that. But
yeah,
and the internet gives people like me a chance, and I think it kind of is consistent with how I view it and how other people view it too. That you shouldn't. Why give up on it? Why should I? This is something I obviously believe in. So I'm going to keep going as long as I can.
All right, that's awesome. Well, I think that one thing that does hold people back too is, like you said, they've got so much responsibility with kids and things like that. How do you juggle your time being an attorney and a dad and a husband and all that, and still pursue?
I don't have a formula for it. I don't have, I haven't written the book on it. Let's admit it that way. I've learned to become a decent juggler. I do say that to people. I've learned, it's, and that's why sometimes what I try to do, I try to do at least a little music a day. And when I say a little music, I don't always mean playing or even writing. I do a few things musically oriented, whether it's connecting with people on social media, or looking for, book some more gigs, or write some new songs, or practice that day, or things like that. So I'm trying to do at least a bunch of things a day, and I've been successful at doing that. And even that, that's a few hours a day, right then and there. It takes longer than you think, all this stuff. It is constant juggling, and sometimes it's some weeks are obviously much harder than others. My family is still first and foremost. But at the same time, believe it or not, is actually the most efficient I've been. So as difficult as it has been to maintain all of it, and I am exhausted 24/7. I truly am. I have to it's amazing how I get through the day sometimes. But I actually, you learn to make quicker decisions, and otherwise you'll never get things done. And I used to be a lot more indecisive, and I've actually been much better at making decisions because I don't have as much time. People have told me this. People use the time that's allotted to them. If I gave you a week to make a decision, you take the full week. But if I gave you an hour, you'll you'll come to a decision. So it's as much as it's sometimes overwhelmed. I made the most progress in the last few years, musically speaking.
Yeah,
I really have. So I guess again is that if you really want to do something, you'll find the time and the way to do it.
exactly. I was just reading a book by Richard Branson, and he was talking about, he's such a busy man and a billionaire, and he was saying, somebody asked him how he did something. He finally resolved that when he was around his family doing certain family things, he would only take away 15 minutes to do business. at a time. And somebody said, well, how do you do it? He said, I make that 15 minutes count, you know, and the rest of the time is, you know, with my family. So I think sometimes when you have less time, I guess you work it out and you're passionate enough, I guess you find a way to do it.
It's like people who they only have 20 minutes to work out a day, but they do it every day, and yet they still maintain that thing. I mean, you know, you don't need as much time as you think to do certain things. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld said something similar about how he, you know, would try to get things done. He'd do a little each day. Before you know it, he had a whole new set of material, because he didn't just wait months on end, you know, to do something. He made sure he like wrote a couple of lines a day, and before he knew it, he had a whole batch of new material. And it's just a matter of, you know, devoting yourself and having that mindset. Ariel Hyatt of Cyber PR, you know, that's where I learned that from. She's the one that, you know, she has a thing called five tasks a day, and you know, as long as you get 5 items done a day, then you're already ahead of the game, you know. So wow. Things like that, you just have to, you know, just keep you have to think in small doses. But if you're consistent with it, then before you know it, you'll look a few months back and you realize how much you got done.
Absolutely. Well, I have to talk about that. I want to talk about this because I'm so impressed that your song "Don't," which I love, was on your volume 1 of Realizations and Declarations, and I had read in your bio that it was actually played during the 3rd annual New York Yankees Hope Week segment on NBC's Today Show back in 2011. And also you had another song, A Better Life, from your first CD that was played on the same show during that same segment in 2010. How did you land that opportunity? Because that's just, and what did that do for you? To me, that I would have just been so excited. I think that would just be unbelievably exciting. How did that happen for you?
You know, I have a fan of my music, actually works at NBC, and he edits these things, and he, you know, when these segments were coming together, you know, these Hope Week initiatives, I haven't been involved in a while, but it's a great thing that the Yankees did. I say this as a Met fan, and I'm still giving credit to the Yankees, by the way. And credit where credit is properly due and deserved. But they do this you know, initiative where they basically, you know, the players would surprise all these kids. And, you know, these are kids, you know, who either like have disabilities or they're underprivileged or something like that, and they make their day, you know, and they kind of fulfill, you know, they do something really special for them, and it's a nice, and it's to give them hope, and it's a really nice thing. And like songs like A Better Life and Don't were very appropriate for that thing, because, you know, Better Life is, you know, a very self-explanatory kind of song where, you know, we're all looking to improve ourselves and seek a better life, and Don't's about not quitting and not giving up. So, you know, these weren't the only songs, by the way, that were on these things, but I was definitely very proud to have been a part of it.
I think that's awesome. I do. I just think that's great. Well, I wanted to give you a chance to talk a little bit about your upcoming, you know, your volume 2, because that's exciting and that's going to be released soon. Just what is the inspiration behind it? And just I love the title anyway, by the way.
I'm glad you do. I'm really happy to hear that. You know, it sounds stupid, but when I finished the Better Life record, and I was trying to think, what do I want to do next? And I thought to myself, you know, if I had the gumption, I would do. I wanted, you know, very anachronistically, I wanted to do a double album. You know, I thought, you know, like some kind of concept album or something. But in this day and age, it's just so not feasible. People are, first of all, it takes a long time, you know, because I have to space it out. It takes a while to even come out with an album, longer than I would like it to be. And also, we're in an era now where people they're not even thinking about albums anymore, to be honest. It's really a singles world now. People hear so much music. It's rare. I don't say rare. It's just not as common that people will sit and listen to a whole album. Older people still do that more. Younger people don't do it as much. They just want to hear, you know, their favorite song and lop it in their mixes or playlists or mixtapes or whatever, and it's a bunch, you know, jumbled with all their other favorite things, and they're not really, you know, anything of your stuff that is just okay. It won't make that list or something like that. And that goes what I was, you know, to what I was saying. That's why it's so important to be consistently great. So anyway, I thought that, you know, I had this idea about this realizations and declarations kind of double record, where side one would be realizations about all the things, you know, these kinds of realizations you have in life, and not always good ones, but just trying to, you know, it's like a self-searching, soul-searching kind of thing. And then you have all these declarations, things that you're gonna, you know, a song like Don't, it's a declaration kind of song. I'm not gonna quit. You know, The Right Place is a declaration kind of song. Even though life has been difficult, I'm gonna get, you know, I'm gonna keep going, and things are gonna turn out at the right place in the right time. You know, whereas a song like What the Hell is a realization kind of song, without question. I worked all this time, put all this effort in, and I didn't get to where I wanted. What the hell? WTF is really what I was trying to say there. But I just said what the hell instead. So, you know, I decided, so what I decided to do, because people expect, what I was trying to say is people, you know, it's a singles world, and people expect you to come out with content very frequently. They're not going to wait 3 years for your next record. They want to see content every few months. Otherwise, they're going to forget about who you are. It's sad, but it's true. So I decided to break it up. I said, I'm going to break this up into mini records. You can call them EPs. I don't know if they really are EPs, but so I did this volume 1, and then now there's volume 2, and soon, and hopefully soon, and not too much later, there'll be a volume 3. But that was my idea about it, and I just decided to break it all up so that it can be more, so I can get out music more consistently.
Right. Well, I think it's great. And now, can people get that on your website, or do they need to go to? They can.
Yeah. Just to go to scottkrokoff.com.
Yeah, I've got that here. I'm ready. Can you see it?
Wow. I'm impressed.
Okay.
I'm just so used to spelling my name. Yeah, so everything is there. All my you can hear there's a SoundCloud player. There's also links to iTunes and Bandcamp and CD Baby, where you can get my stuff. And there's also all my social media links and icons: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. So just go to scottkrokoff.com and you can get what you need.
Okay, great. And I'll have all those links in the blog article I write about you. Now, I know I got to wrap it up soon, but I had a couple more. I wanted to ask you, when you're writing a song, does typically the melody come first, or do the lyrics come first, or does it vary for you? And which instrument is your go-to instrument when you? I mean,
99% of the time the melody comes first,
right.
And the acoustic guitar is my instrument of choice. Although I'm trying to expand that in the future, and I want to eventually start trying out other things like on bass and piano and stuff. And I've started to bass, a little bit, but mostly it's still acoustic guitar.
Okay.
And melodies come to me pretty quickly. I'm lucky about, like I feel like I usually get a melody for a song, and I'm able to kind of form it and shape it pretty quick. Lyrics, on the other hand, they take me forever. They sometimes could take me years of time, and I'm really not, I'm not kidding. I'm not joshing you here. Sometimes I get it. I could get it in a matter of days. I have written quick songs. I don't, there are people out there who say their hit song was written in an hour. I'm not going to be one of those people. every, you know, now and then I do come up with something that's pretty quick. I have written songs like within a few hours. I've done it every now and then, but most of the time it takes me a while. I usually have like the title in place or some kind of line in place, and the rest is I'm singing gibberish until I come up with the rest of the body of the song. And it could,
Right.
it because I, you know, I have to find my nooks and crannies of time to finish it out, finish it off. It takes me a while. It does. And it's kind of the reason why my songs sometimes take longer than I would like them to be, is because the lyrics just take longer. The melodies come, I get them quick, but the lyrics take forever.
Right. Well, I was curious how, because everybody's kind of got a different way they do it, and so
They do. I might have once or twice tried to write a song around lyrics. I've done it, but very rare.
yeah, right. Well, I love your cover of your CD. I have it up here, you know, and I don't know. I guess because I told you I was learning photography, and so I've noticed people. I have so much fun stalking people's websites and looking at their pictures because I just happen to notice things like that. And to me, it looked. I like it. I don't know if that was your intention with the suit and everything, but it's perfect with the attorney and the singer-songwriter, you know.
You got it. That's exactly what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was trying to do. You totally got it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I, you know, it was what I wanted to convey was actually conveyed, because duality. You know, by the way, I don't wear a suit to work. The grand irony of that. I used to wear suits a long, long time ago, but I haven't worn suits in ages. But I was trying to, you know, obviously play a part, and that's why I dressed it that way with the whole, you know.
Well, it's perfect
briefcase.
because, and I don't know if I got it before I read you were an attorney. I really don't remember. I just know that I got it.
No, you
and
did. You totally got it. And
yeah,
the, and the next record, and the next record is the same backdrop, but it's now me with like more like casual attire.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. No, I like it. I do. I really do. So, well, what kind of, you've obviously gotten great support from your family, or you wouldn't still be doing this. What is your, before we wrap it up, I was just curious, what direction do you see yourself headed? Where are you going with, or where would you like to be headed with your career, I guess? Will you, in other words, do you still want to continue to be an attorney, or is that you have a plan that far ahead?
I mean, look, I'd love to one day, you know, make enough income from music to make it a full-time gig. But that might take a while. You know, I do want to, I'd like to see if I could leverage some more licensing opportunities for this upcoming record. That's a really good way to, you know, it's not an easy business to get into, but licensing songs is a very lucrative one for musicians. You know, whether it's like in a movie or in a commercial or with a corporate sponsor or something like that. That's the kind of stuff I'd love to be able to do, financially speaking. And then I'm going to start, you know, this probably this fall, start working on R&D Volume 3. And so I'm going to start, I already have the material for it. So I'll be doing that. And then other than that, I really just want to, you know, I might do some radio promotion for, you know, I'm in the midst of doing the promotion for the upcoming record. I'm starting to get some placements online, and I'm probably going to do some radio promotion too. And then I just want to, you know, keep doing what I'm doing, really, networking and writing and performing. Like I said, I feel like I can get to another level performing. And I also and I think all of that, you know, hopefully that will lead to some more higher profile gigs, maybe some more festivals. So those are my immediate goals. But yeah, you know, long-term goal, yeah, I'd love to do that. So would most musicians. I do think though that, you know, I can't say when that will happen. If it happens, it's something I'm striving towards.
Yeah. It'll happen. I think if your passion's there, and you do have passion, and you know, I'll have to put this in there because I just read this. I guess it was yesterday when I was finishing up this book by Richard Branson. He says, first of all, he says, if you're not having fun, it's time to do something different. But he's just talking about how you just gotta focus on the most important thing, and that's enjoy what you're doing, and be passionate about it, and don't worry about the money, because he said if you're doing what you love and you're passionate about it, the money will find itself to you. It just does. And he said it always has worked for him. And I thought it was really great advice, because he said if you worry too much about how it's all going to work out or how the money's going to come, then the fun leaves it. And
I think he's right. I think he's right about that. It's a very long view. It's going to take a long time, probably a lot longer than you think. But if you do have that drive and talent, I do think he's right. I think the money will eventually come, but you might have to really hold the fort for a while.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Scott, I hate to end this today, because it's been such a pleasure and honor to have you here today. And I really want to thank you again for being here. And I want to make sure the viewers know how to find you at Krokoff.com. And I'll hold that up again just to make sure it shows up on the replay. And so is there anything else you wanted to add today, Scott?
No, I just wanted to thank you for having me here, and for all the promotion you did leading up to this. And I'm grateful that you really enjoy my music, and that we're of like minds when it comes to pursuing one's dreams. So again, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. And don't leave me yet, because I want to thank the viewers also. Again, thanks for being here. And make sure you follow my blog, tamarahscloset.com, because in the upcoming future, I'll have a blog article about Scott with some of the links he was naming. I'll also have a replay of this interview in there as well. And I want to thank the viewers for their continued support. And on July 17th, I have a young man who is he's a record-breaking teenager who was awarded the most print books published by a teenager, Aaron Ozzie. So he'll be coming up in a couple weeks. So that should be fun. He'll actually be the youngest person I've had on the show. So that's going to be interesting. So follow Scott at scottkrokoff.com, and you can find his social media sites there on his website too. And follow Tamarah's Closet for my other interviews and my upcoming article on Scott and a replay. So thanks again for supporting my show, and make sure you share this replay when you see it, and help me continue to celebrate Scott Krokoff. And I'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks. Bye.